In this video, you will learn about this thing called test-taking mindset. Believe it or not, but it actually takes a specific set of thoughts that will drive you to take a specific set of actions that will bring you to the result you want. When I start working with a client on their SAT prep, we always look at their point A and at their point B. I always ask a parent, a student, or maybe a college consultant, what score are you looking at? What is the ultimate goal? And sometimes the ultimate goal is 1570, and sometimes the ultimate goal is 1450, 1320. But we always establish what your point B is, and then we look at your point A. You have to take a practice test. You have to take a full timed practice test to know where you are. So you have your point A and you have your point B. And what separates you from your point A to your point B is a set of actions that you need to take in order to go from scoring one to scoring the other. And that set of actions is always tailored to you individually. It's a set of individualized actions. In my practice, we actually have like 2 tracks. For a student who's scoring 1400 and below, then for them, we need to take the content track. You need to work on the content first. And it has been my experience that if I'm working with someone who's scoring above 1400 already, this student is going to be annoyed if you start working with them on content right away. So we have the content track and we have the strategy track. And it all will be tailored to you specifically, knowing what your gaps are, knowing what your weaknesses are so that we can turn those weaknesses into strengths. But for you to do those actions, you need to feel a certain way. It is not helpful to feel self-pity, to feel frustrated, to feel overwhelmed. It is not helpful to feel those feelings. And believe it or not, a student, you are in full control of generating a specific set of feelings for yourself, and you could be completely in charge of your test-taking mindset. Here's how this works. So I will share with you right now a framework that is very popular in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, community, and it consists of 5 components. First, circumstance, C. The second component is thought, T. The third component is feeling, F. The fourth component is actions, A. And the last one, when you take a lot of actions, you get a result. Or when you don't take a lot of actions, you also don't get the result, but that's also a result. So the framework is CTFAR, or like the framework that we will use. So we start with a C, circumstance. Circumstance is always neutral. You are taking the SAT or the ACT. This circumstance, believe it or not, is neutral. It doesn't have to feel overwhelming. It doesn't have to feel like it's a lot. It doesn't have to feel like it's hard. It's neutral. It just is. It's kind of like the weather is 72 degrees Fahrenheit today. It's neither good or bad. It just is. You know, my body temperature is this way. My heart beats this many times per minute. This is just a fact. So you are taking the SAT on a particular date. Let's write this down. Let's say you're taking the SAT on March 8th or maybe May 3rd. I am taking the SAT. Let's write down that sentence. Sentence is neutral. Now, that sentence will actually, believe it or not, evoke some kind of a thought from you. And a thought is a sentence that your brain comes up with. For example, the thought could be, it's going to be difficult. Or, I don't have enough time. I don't think I'm going to improve. Those thoughts that are optional will then generate a specific chemical change in your brain that will make you feel a certain way. Let's just say, I am overwhelmed. The thought is, I am overwhelmed. I don't have enough time. That thought will create the feeling of frustration. It will create a feeling of overwhelm. And now let's take a look at this list of actions that you need to take. Does it drive you to take those actions? Does the feeling of overwhelm, frustration, drive you to take those actions? Because when we think a thought, it creates a feeling, and the feeling drives you to take a set of actions. Let's take a look at this list of actions. How do you think you need to feel like taking this list of actions? Do you think feeling overwhelmed, frustrated is helpful? Imagine someone who's feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. What is the probability of them taking this list of actions? Probably 0. Let's think about someone who's feeling determined and motivated. What is the probability of them taking this list of actions? What if you think of someone who feels incapable versus someone who feels capable? Someone who feels capable is going to be a lot more likely to take this set of actions. And how do we create the feeling of capable? We create it by thinking thoughts like, I got this. It is in my power. It has been done before. I am smart enough to achieve this goal. I am organized enough to achieve this goal. I can do this. These types of sentences create the feeling of capable. And when you feel capable, you're actually able to take those actions. When you feel not capable, when you feel inadequate, I'm not smart enough, nothing is working, I tried everything and nothing is working. Those sentences are creating the feeling of incapable, and therefore these actions end up not being taken. So this is the key to your test-taking mindset. I want you to quickly write down the circumstance, and then in your T line, in your thought line, write down a bunch of thoughts that come up when you see this neutral circumstance. I'm taking the SAT on date. What are those thoughts? Write them down. Now, for your next step, make sure you write that down. For your next step, let's think about what kinds of feelings those thoughts generate. A feeling is one word. A feeling could be overwhelm, frustration. It's just a one word. This is a bunch of ideas. What kind of feeling does it create for you? And now think about what kinds of actions are going to be driven by that feeling. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, what kinds of actions does it drive? I'm spinning in my thoughts. I am taking on too much. I don't create my calendar. I don't prioritize SAT prep because it doesn't matter anyway. You feel sorry for yourself. All of those actions will then create the result of not prepping for the SAT. And guess what? When you're not prepping for the SAT, this actually helps you prove your thought that you are overwhelmed and that you don't have enough time. And that is how we end up in this little cycle. Our result is always helping us prove our original thought because our brain likes to be right. Now, imagine a different scenario where you are feeling capable. So your thought must have been, I can do this. When you think, I can do this, and you believe it, you're feeling capable. When you're feeling capable, what sets of actions are you taking? You're probably creating your schedule. You're taking practice tests. You're meeting with your mentor. You're scheduling meetings with me. You are working on math chops. You're completing your IXL sets. You're obsessing over your mistakes. You're reading 25 pages every day. You're learning new vocabulary. You're reviewing your flashcards. You're reviewing your notes. You're completing your homework. And guess what? That results in a higher score. And then when you get a higher score, that result, guess what? It proves the thought, I can do this. You see, you can have this machine working for you or working against you. Make sure whenever you feel down, just quickly examine, wait, what am I thinking? What is the thought? What is the sentence in my brain that I believe? You don't have to believe every sentence your brain is coming up with. Let's say you received a score and you're looking at it and you're like, nothing is working. That is an optional thought that you could choose to think or choose not to think. Write it down. Think about what kind of feeling does it create for me. Nothing is working creates the feeling of frustration. When you feel frustrated, do you feel like taking those actions that you need to take? Because we established that for you to go from point A to point B, you have to take this set of individualized actions. And if the feeling that you're creating with your thought is not helping you take those actions, well, stop thinking it. This was one of the biggest discoveries that I've made in my own personal growth, is evaluating my own thinking and understanding that not all thoughts are mandatory. I could choose to think them and I could choose not to think them. So just because you have a sentence in your head doesn't mean you need to believe it, and you can always fine-tune your thinking. I'm going to offer you a bunch of thoughts that I think are helpful to think on purpose. If you think these thoughts, not just say them to yourself, but believe them and generate a specific feeling of capable, determined, motivated on purpose. When you're sitting in your room and meditating, you can choose a bunch of thoughts to think on purpose to generate those positive feelings for you. Onwards, my friends, and this is my lecture on test-taking mindset.